In a small-scale society, everybody is interdependent. There is no surplus labour, no stored wealth, and no safety net outside the group itself. If one hunter gets injured, the whole group immediately loses access to that labour. If one caregiver gets sick, children and the elderly immediately lose support. If one person is emotionally distressed, it can disrupt the entire group's coordination, lowering the ability for everyone to stay alive. In tight-knit survival units, a physically injured or disabled person is not just a risk to the person, it's a risk for the whole group. This is why humans evolved a deep instinct to help each other, because it increases the survival odds of everyone. Empathy evolved. It is not just a nice to have emotion. Your brain has mirror neurons. They fire when you perform an action, but also when you see somebody else perform the same action. That's why you can get a fright in the movie theater. This means when you see somebody in pain, your brain has evolved to feel that pain. And that immediate emotional urgency is what drives you to help them. If you can experience secondhand distress, you can also learn from other people's experience without direct harm. This is a key evolutionary benefit. Groups that responded better, more effectively, to injured or distressed members outcompete evolutionarily groups that didn't. Humans release oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone, when we experience social closeness. Oxytocin reduces stress, it increases coordination, and it strengthens social bonds. The more bonded, emotionally connected a group is, the more cohesive and functional it becomes. Groups that learned to care for each other deeply and rely on one another had higher survival rates. Early societies built entire governance around collective well-being because this was the only way to survive. Hunter-gatherers evolved non-hierarchical dispute resolution strategies, and violence was extremely rare because harming one member of the group harmed everyone. So most disputes, where at all possible, were resolved through mediation, and most decisions, where at all possible, were made collectively. Why? Because in small, interdependent tribes, the cost of losing somebody was just too high. In hunter-gatherer tribes, food was shared, not hoarded. A hunter who refused to share would be socially ostracized. Even later, when humans switched to agrarian societies and started to farm, taxes and redistribution systems emerged to ensure that nobody starved, because that maintained social cohesion. When everybody's needs were met, groups would survive and thrive. Any kind of inequality created social tension, which weakened everybody's ability to survive. Capitalism and empires had to destroy this natural system. Why? Because empathy makes hoarding resources kind of tricky. Empathy makes enforcing your Roman hierarchy kind of tricky. Empathy makes controlling and extracting from populations kind of tricky. So there has been a conscious attempt to break down and erode an instinctive social contract, criminalizing communal land, turning mutual aid systems into charity, and glorifying individualism and productivity over human connection. Your brain is still hardwired for co-regulation, but this system of capitalism forces you into isolation. Our survival instincts are deep-rooted in connection with each other, and we can actively restore these systems. Relearn emotional co-regulation. Reject artificial competition. Choose cooperation over careerism. Help to rebuild trust-based survival systems. Share food. Share skills. Share information. Decentralize the fucking government. If more people reconnected with their biological survival instinct for empathy, capitalism and hierarchy would become obsolete. That's why these systems are working so hard to suppress how you feel. Propaganda uses language that strips people of their humanity. This makes it easier for society to disconnect from suffering. Terms like vermin or terrorist or other derogatory labels cultivate an environment where empathy is suppressed. Propaganda leverages social identity theory. This is where emphasizing the differences of one group is done in an attempt to strengthen the in-group loyalty of another. The goal is to create distrust and disdain for these other groups. How might your political affiliations or your cultural affiliations or your social affiliations be used to influence your empathy towards different groups who are not like you? Research indicates there has been a significant decline in empathy among younger groups. Modern society's emphasis on individualism and success has been directly linked with a rise in narcissistic behaviour. The focus on the self diminishes your capacity to even understand the feelings of other people. How much emphasis do you place on your own individual success versus community well-being? Dehumanization as a result of propaganda leads to viewing others as less human. That enables the system to justify mistreatment. This psychological process has been observed in many contexts, and it's directly correlative with an increase in sexism, homophobia, and fear. Understanding how propaganda and the system are actively working to erode your empathy encourages us all to reflect on our beliefs and how we behave. Recognize that there are bad actors at work. There are nefarious influences. By simply being aware of that, we can take conscious steps to rebuild systemic empathy and try to create a more connected and compassionate society.